All right, so today I'm focused on this latest news that's been going around about the Hantavirus being on a cruise ship. So I'm going to break down what we actually know, stick to the facts as much as possible, and this is for May 7th, as you see the date here. So things may have changed later on, might get new information, things like that. So I just wanted to set the date, and let's talk about exactly what's going on. So the ship had 149 people on board. It was a Dutch ship operated by Oceanwide Expeditions. So I guess the trip was supposed to be Antarctica plus some remote South Atlantic islands, looking at penguins, whales, bird watching. There was a lot of stuff that these folks were doing on the ship. And we're going to talk a little bit about one of those islands later on when a bunch of people disembarked. So they left Argentina on April 1st. And here that talks about there's 149 people, a lot of different countries, Spanish, British, American. And these symptoms began emerging in passengers starting as early as the 6th of April. So when they did testing much later, they found out which strain even of the virus it was. All right, so when we get into the where everyone is right now, I think it's a little bit unclear. I'm going to explain why here. So a lot of the reports are saying there's 146 people still on board, which includes the 3 that have passed away. There was a Dutch couple. The man passed away on board, and his wife disembarked along with these 30 to 40 unknown passengers who are not traced, and she flew to South Africa, where she also passed away in a hospital. So the news says that a bunch of these passengers disembarked at St. Helena. So if they started with 147, they should still be around 108. But it does say, the other news articles still say that there's 146 on board. So we'll have to figure out what the truth is later, because the math doesn't add up. But the confirmed cases of these passengers are being seen in a few places around the world. Singapore is isolating 2 residents who were on the same flight as that confirmed case, I believe, of the woman who passed away in South Africa. And the biggest news today, May 7th, is that there was also a KLM flight attendant who was hospitalized today. We don't know yet if she has hantavirus. It hasn't been shown guaranteed yet, so we'll see about that. And again, Spain initially refused to let this ship dock, but the WHO fought back, and I don't know how much firepower the WHO has these days. I assume it's not much, but let's get into what the actual hantavirus is. So these viruses are carried by rodents, like mice and rats, and there is rodent-to-human transmission. You can kind of get it from even being close to their feces, inhaling urine, kind of these things can get into humans, and then you get sick. So there's 2 distinct illnesses depending on the strain. HPS is the hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. The other one is HFRS, which is a hemorrhagic fever, which we're not going to talk about much today. So HPS is the pulmonary one, which is lung. So basically you get all the same fever stuff, you get muscle aches, all those things, headache, and then it goes into lung problems. So you get something called pulmonary edema, which is your lungs will fill up with fluid, which is not fun. So this is the Andes strain. So I've seen percentages from 30 to 40. If you want to be more clickbaity, you should go with 40. If you want to instill less panic, maybe 30. So anyways, it's up to 40. I think we can say that. There's not a ton of data because this is a pretty rare virus. So again, like what I said, with pulmonary edema, the fluid will flood the lungs and you essentially drown in your own body fluids. Brutal, right? So how does it spread? I already kind of got into this a little bit. So you get the aerosols from rodent urine, feces, or saliva. So these two who passed away, they spent 4 months bird watching across Argentina, Chile, and Uruguay. So this is also the Andes strain, which we talked about, which is the only known hantavirus capable of human-to-human transmission. I've seen that this is what they currently say. It requires close, prolonged contact and is documented as extremely rare. but I'm not sure how close this needs to be, because I have read anecdotal case studies of this being passed at a party. Sure, the person sitting next to someone for a couple hours at a party, and if it's a regular party and not like a Diddy party, you are not getting that much close, extremely personal contact. So I believe that this is just what we think right now. It takes close personal contact, but I'm not really certain that that's how we're going to see. Plus, if the way that viruses generally evolve is going to be, they get less deadly and more transmissible, because those are the strains, if you remember, even COVID, those are the strains that become the next big thing, because it gives people more time to pass it on, and it doesn't kill their vector of transmission, right? If a person gets too sick and dies, they can't pass on the virus. So incubation time is 1 to 6 weeks is what it says. So you could have this for up to 6 weeks apparently, and not show symptoms. So that's a pretty big one. So that's why you see that it's May, and people on the ship first started showing symptoms about a month ago, starting April 6th. So they must have had contact in March with whatever was the inciting factor, right? Some feces or whatever. So I did look at this part just to compare it to COVID, because I think a lot of people are already comparing it to COVID. So I do think we could say it's rodents for hantavirus. COVID is, of course, other humans giving it to each other here. Human to human spread. Again, we think it's rare, or conventional wisdom says it's rare. I think it is rare, but maybe the close contact is overblown, because I think people were saying sharing a cabin, sharing body fluids and things like that, but maybe just close contained is also enough. So we'll see what happens with that in the next days, but currently, requires close contact. Of course, we know COVID was highly contagious. The incubation period, you could see it's 1 to 6 weeks for this, whereas for COVID it was up to 2 weeks. Mortality 40% here. We already talked about that. This is less than 1% about COVID. The WHO global risk, it says it's low, and of course COVID was a pandemic. So can it be treated? Getting into this, there's no antiviral, there's no vaccine for this, but we're gonna give all the regular things you do to folks with a viral disease, right? So all these viral illnesses, you do something called supportive care. All these things that are listed here: ventilation if you need help breathing, fluid management, that's going to be important here, and this extracorporeal, all this other nonsense that we're going to say in severe cases. But really, it's finding it early and being able to take care of them with all these fluids and things like that. These are the other things. So this is the hemorrhagic fever strain that I was talking about. So this is the one that's not the one that we're talking about now, the Andes one. So they have seen some IV antivirals that help if started early. But again, this is a different strain. It's not the same one that we're dealing with. And again, the same thing here. This is for different strains. There's a Hantavirus, but it's not for the Andes strain, the one that we're seeing the outbreak right now. So there's the last point there. There's no vaccine for this one. So just wanted to check in here, and currently, as it stands now, this strain is not the next pandemic because of the things that I mentioned. I used the WHO disease outbreak news from 3 days ago, plus reading the headlines and stuff from today. So it doesn't look like currently, things could change, that this is going to be like COVID again, because we see it is much more deadly, it is much less transmissible, and unless it becomes less deadly and more transmissible, then we won't see. But starting at 40% is pretty scary. I think there's a lot of headlines, a lot of fear being mongered right now, but I wouldn't be too worried about it at the moment. Just something for you to note down that this is going on. And of course, my friends who are texting me about a cruise this July, it brings up these WHO standards for, I think that came out around COVID, for cruise hygiene. Anyways, it looks like this Dutch couple who have unfortunately passed away, they got this before entering the cruise ship, but it seems to have spread around a little bit at least. So we'll keep on top of the story. I'll maybe do an update if anything changes. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to lay down a baseline that don't worry too much. Here's what's happening right now. And hope that was helpful.